Hello grade 6, welcome to class again. This is the second video for your sub period today. It'll be a little bit shorter. This video is on the Great Wall of China, the different, the thinking behind why it started. It's not an in-depth look into it. It gives you some information. It gives you the reason behind it, the thinking, and then hopefully with this you can decide if you want to do your project on something related to the Great Wall or move on to a different topic that we covered briefly, and then through your inquiry learn more about ancient China. So to start, these are the questions I would like for you to be answering. The 5 relationships of Confucius, that should be from a video on Wednesday. The second one is here. The second question is list the reasons for why people revolt. We haven't actually been able to get into this much, and it'll actually be our next video is revulsion, and then well, maybe we'll cover it in class so you guys can ask more questions. We'll see. We'll be talking about revolution. For this one, one of the big reasons why people revolt is, number one, it's the easy history answer, that is because they're hungry. 2 is oppression. 3 is whether we see it in different instances in history, but it could be a suppression of ideas, it could be a suppression of religion, those kinds of things. And then revolution can also come through ideas, right? The Arab Spring, something that came up around in the maybe 10 years ago or so, that was almost a revelation of thought, of ideas that were coming out of the Middle East. So I just gave you those answers. Now answer the last 2, hit pause when you're finished, continue playing the video. Okay, now you have answered those. I look forward to seeing those in Manage Back. If we were in class today and we were learning as an in-person normal type school, we would be playing a game. We would be playing a game of tag. However, with this game of tag, there would be rules. In these rules, you would have to stay in the canteen. You can't run away. You are what we call landlocked. Okay, you must keep your arms linked with your partner. If you are tagged by someone, you need to link arms with them. Okay, then it'll be the biggest person with the biggest train. Everybody linked arms. Now, after that, you could there's a rule for how you can tag someone. You can't tag somebody on the shoulder, the head, the body, or anything like that. There's only one spot, and we'd put a little sticker on your back. And on that, it would be right between your shoulder blades, and that's the only place where you can get stuck, right? That's where somebody can stick you or tag you. And so that would be the game. If you lost, you'd have to do push-ups or something like that. There'd be a thing for the loser. And so you would go and you would play, and you would figure out that the easiest thing to do in order to win this game is to go with your partner who has linked arms, because you're a little bit slower than the people who are running around chasing you. And you would just put your back up against a wall where nobody can tag your sticker on the back. And so that thinking of all I have to do is build or put my back up against a wall to protect me from being tagged or losing the game is the same kind of thinking that drove the ancient Chinese into building their Great Wall. And click to the next slide here. I want you to imagine you have a problem. You have a really, really, really bad neighbor. And this neighbor, okay, is landlocked. This neighbor can't go and trade for other things. They're living in a cold area of the world, and he needs to eat. You have the food, so instead of doing it himself, he comes to you and he robs your fridge, he takes your piggy bank, he takes all your pets, leaving nothing behind for you. And he does this pretty regularly to the point where you are getting really sick of it. And so I guess I could ask you, what would you do to stop him from coming over? Well, in Indonesia, right, almost every single house building that I've ever been to here has a fence with barbed wire around it, security guards, right? So in order to keep people from taking things from you that you don't want them to take from you, you build a fence, right? You build a wall, you put protection around you. And it's this thinking of, I'm sick of being robbed. I'm sick of being the one who is always living in fear and terror of these neighbors, that I am going to build and construct a wall. And so the Mongolians, or the Hun, or the Mongols, as they're often referred to in history, are located, and you can see them in the top right corner here. This is the modern China map, but Mongolia is up here, China's down here. Along this edge of China are the mountains, okay? And they provide a natural barrier. It's really hard to travel through the mountains, especially with an army. There's snow, those kinds of things. Really, it's a natural wall. Keep protecting China from that side of the world. Now the ocean, back then it's hard to travel on the ocean and invade a country through water, and a lot of the neighboring countries did not have the naval power to do that. And then, so that only left the north as the vulnerable point. And to put it bluntly, China had probably the worst northern neighbor ever. The Mongols are known in history to be fierce and terrible and incredibly powerful people. And so they're located up there. It's cold. They don't have access to the ocean. They need food. They are scary. And their philosophy is, in order to receive, I must take. And so they conquered most of the world at that time. However, China was their first neighbor. And so they built, starting in the years, or we won't get into the years yet because it's not on the slide. So the Mongols would send raiders into China, taking their money, taking their cows, taking their crops, different things like that, and bringing them back, almost like Vikings. However, these raiders would come, pillage the land, and then go. The Chinese people got really sick of this, so small groups and villages. It didn't start as one big wall, building it from sea to shining sea. It was a community, a village, a king of that area who said, you know what, we're sick of this. If we build a wall, that will deter them from coming into our village and taking our stuff. Hopefully they go to the other village and take their stuff, as long as they don't take mine. I should probably move myself up to here now that you want to be able to see it and read it. Now, small groups of villages, kings, so they made it out of whatever they had available. They didn't have steel and concrete back then, right? They're still learning how to do that. And so they made theirs out of whatever they had available. Dirt, rocks, trees, right? Piling them up. And so in that documentary we watched, that will actually help you learn more about how they built it, and it'll be easier for you to go back to your notes and see, and better than me telling you about it all over again. Okay, so the Great Wall of China, the geography of it, it started as a means to protect the northern border, and it crosses a wide range of geographical features. Mountains, plains, deserts, right? There's a lot of territory that is being protected by this wall. The year they started it was, they think, around 770 BC, and then they continued to build it for another 2,000 years after that. Some portions were just placed in different places, and then there was a considerable effort under the Ming Dynasty to build it from connecting all these walls to, and the Ming Dynasty connecting all, make it a major military resource, basically. Putting a road on top of parts of it, towers, things like that coming in, making it a military establishment versus a wall, or simply a wall. And the purpose was to protect its borders. As the different dynasties were building the Wall of China, some it was through volunteers. The early on, like, they did it because they wanted to protect their community. It soon got the name Wall of Death because many people would go to it to be forced conscription to work on the wall, and then would never return. They'd die from the harsh conditions, the harsh labor expectations, and the work itself. And so came the Wall of Death. There's said to be many people buried in it too. So that's kind of scary. That is the story of the Great Wall. Now the Great Wall served its purpose for a little while. It was actually used, portions of it was actually used during World War II. So it's still there. You can go visit it. I would love to go take a field trip there sometime. But the problem is we can't do anything right now. But one of the interesting stories is that even though they built this wall, they protected themselves, they did all these things, they eventually, the people they were trying to keep out conquered them. And now the wall didn't do anything for them. And so it took a long time for Chinese people to establish a rule of their own. Sorry about all the yawns, but I hope you enjoyed today's video. Our next video is going to be on revolution and how we see that happening in Chinese history, and we'll do that also in the other units that we cover. I hope you have a great day. As always, see you next time.